All right, welcome to the Good and Kinky Show. My name is Greg, and this is a special end of the world edition, a Rapture edition where we can say goodbye to the Christians. And with me today, I have Mark Powers, the former director of Jews for Judaism. I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you very much. I may not be here very long. I think my rapture bus is coming shortly, and so I may have to leave.
And the reason I said that we can say goodbye to the Christians is, and website will be in the description bar below, in September of 2015, we have an unprecedented epic alignment of major events related to biblical prophecies of the end times that simply cannot happen again.
Okay.
So all of this simply cannot happen again.
Thank God.
The first one is tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
September 11th, last day, Friday. Financial markets will be open prior to LU 29.
Elul.
Okay, Elul.
Yeah, that's the Jewish month of Elul. It precedes the month of the beginning of Rosh Hashanah.
That's tomorrow. Then on September 13th, a partial solar eclipse of Elul on Elul 29, the day judgment has fallen in history.
Okay. Judgment has fallen in history, meaning?
I have no idea, and everybody will see.
We're in trouble?
I guess we're in trouble, but the problem with that partial solar eclipse is unless you're in Antarctica, you're not going to see it.
Oh, okay. Well, what I was going to say, what's happening today?
Today, nothing.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, the last day, Friday, the financial markets will be open prior to LU 29.
Well, but it's Friday. The financial markets are always open, aren't they?
I would think.
Is there something that I'm missing here about the financial markets?
I am not sure if they're trying to say that things are going to collapse or...
Oh, you mean more than the last 2 weeks? Because I seem to recall that over the last 2 weeks, the bottom has dropped out of the markets all over the place. But it was primarily attributed to what's going on in China. At least that was my understanding.
Yeah.
Not being Christian, I could be wrong. Who knows?
But September 13th through the 15th, and I want to apologize to everybody if I botch the names, and most of all, hopefully you can correct me on these or help me with these.
Mm-hmm.
The Feast of Trumpets, a.k.a. Rosh Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah. Yeah.
And Yom
Kippur.
Okay, and Yom...
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. The Feast of Trumpets, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, and what was the next word? Yom Teruah?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
And then there's Yom HaKasah. Yom Hakaseh.
Cut me on that one. I have no idea what that one is. Yom Teruah is referring to the fact that we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah.
And then behind that it has
Teruah means blowing of the shofar.
And after that it has the hidden day.
The what day?
The hidden day. Is there a hidden day in Judaism?
If it is, I haven't been able to find it.
And then they have this day begins of awe. This day Okay, this begins Days of Awe.
Yes, they're called actually Seret Yemei Teshuvah, the 10 days of repentance. It's the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. During this period of time that we believe that the gates of heaven are open to hear our pleadings, our prayers, and so forth and so on, and that on Yom Kippur our judgment is sealed for the coming year.
Well,
so we have 10 days to get it all out there, and then on Yom Kippur, that's our last shot.
What they have here is, it is the day Jews believe the book of judgment is opened, and they are called unto repentance. It is the day of the 100th shofar blast, shofar, known in Judaism as the last trump.
Oh, really?
That's what.
Familiar on me.
And I know where they're. I know.
Wait a minute. The last Trump?
Yes.
Donald has kids, so there's no last Trump.
But I know where they're trying to connect that to, and I'll get to that in a second. But they say
we're trying to put this together with Revelation.
Well, that's actually 1 Corinthians, but so in Judaism there is nothing known as the last trump.
No, Donald isn't Jewish, so no.
And biblical scholars believe Yom Teruah of some year is to be fulfilled by the rapture of the church.
Okay, they're not our scholars, so there's really not a whole lot I can say about it.
I love how they put in of some year.
Of some year, yeah. Okay.
I mean that
some scholar and some year. That's reasonable to me. Okay.
But where they're trying, the correlation with the last trump.
Yeah.
That comes in with 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 52, where it says, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. It is where they get their rapture idea.
Okay, that's fine.
That the problem with that,
they may get their idea, but gee whiz.
The problem with that is the trumps are mentioned in Revelation, and it has absolutely nothing to do with Judaism.
That's correct.
Then, in the middle of that, September 14th, first day, Monday, financial markets will be open after Elul 29.
Elul 20, the 29th of Elul.
Aren't they open every
Monday?
Yeah,
except when there's a holiday, like last week when we had, or this week when we had Labor Day. I think they were closed.
Okay, but then September 15th, opening 70th session of the UN General Assembly, a League of Arab States representative may be included in the list of speakers, resolution intentions, the dividing of Israel / a Palestinian state. That's huge. If they do it this time, it may be an agreement that begins Daniel's 70th week, a.k.a. the tribulation period.
Okay. Interesting. First of all, with what's going on with Palestinians right now, when I just hear that Abu Mazen just canceled the elections again, or his resignation again, or something like that, which has thrown the whole Palestinian thing into turmoil one more time. I have no idea. I have no idea what they're doing. I understood that They were doing something that was going to be brought to somewhere, but they've now put it on hold again. The whole thing there is a real mess. You complicate it with what's going on in Syria and the refugee situation, which I find very, very interesting. If you look, for example, at the question that's recently been raised about how many Syrian refugees the United States is going to take, and Secretary Kerry, who gave a figure and so forth and so on. My question is, how many Syrian refugees is Saudi Arabia going to take, and how many Syrian refugees is Iraq or Iran or any number of the other states there in the Middle East? How many refugees are they taking? Why has it fallen on the United States to take these refugees? I'm just perplexed by the question. Why transport these people thousands of miles away to a culture that they're not familiar with when they could be absorbed easily in the culture that they're familiar with a short distance away?
Right.
This has been the modus operandi of the Arab states. Why do so-called Palestinian refugee camps still exist today in Arab areas?
That I have no idea.
Well, because the Arabs did not wish to take in their Arab brothers. They wished to keep them as a cause celeb in the Middle East and saying, look at the problem that Israel has caused. Look at these thousands of people. And, now we're on, a third generation of people living in these refugee camps who have not been allowed to enter the societies of Lebanon, of Syria, of Jordan, of Egypt. They remained as refugees since 1948. And yet, Jews from Yemen and other areas that were thrown out by the Arabs in 1948 were fully absorbed into Israel, a much smaller state, without any problem.
Okay, what about this Daniel's 70th week, a.k.a. the tribulation period?
Mm-hmm. What about it?
What is Daniel's 70th week?
Well, in Daniel 9, let's see if I can set up the whole situation. Daniel was a prophet during the Babylonian exile. The Babylonian exile was decreed to last for 70 years. And the problem was that Daniel was the prophet who was captured in Babylon, and he was counting. And as he was counting, he came up with the position that there was a problem. What was the problem? The problem was that God had decreed 70 years for the Jews to be in captivity in Babylon, to be exiled. And at the end of 70 years, they would be redeemed and sent back to Israel. Daniel's counting, and he's now almost at 70 years. And he's concerned because there's no movement to return the Jews to Israel. There's no movement to bring them out of captivity. And so he's concerned. He's concerned that perhaps God has forgotten the Jewish people, or even worse, the Jewish people have sinned so badly that God said, the heck with them, I'm leaving them there. So Daniel in chapter 9 is getting ready to beseech God. And so he goes through the process of fasting and so forth and so on, and he's going to approach God, and as he's getting ready to approach God, an angel comes from God and says to him, Daniel, don't sweat it. Everything's cool. You just don't know how to count. And that's your problem. Not that the 70 years are up, but rather you don't know how to count 70 years. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. And not only am I going to tell you about the 70 years, but I'm going to tell you about a period of 400 some odd years. Even though you didn't ask, I'm going to tell you. And so the angel then goes to describe periods of time that lead up to the destruction of the temple, the second temple, because obviously the first one had already been destroyed. And you can calculate out where it is, and that's really for another discussion. You know, Daniel 9 is a really a major discussion. I don't want to take the time to do it now, but suffice it to say that in the 70th year, certain things happen. And according to Christian theology, the 70th year hasn't quite occurred yet. And so they're looking for this 70th year during which there's turmoil and so forth and so on. And it ultimately leads to a person coming that they say is Messiah. Problem is, that's not what it says.
Okay.
You know, and again, we need to get into what Daniel 9 says, and as I said, it's a long, involved story.
Okay.
But that's the 70th year that they're talking about. The 70th year of the years that God told Daniel about.
Okay. The next they have is September 17th, the U.S. Congressional Review Period.
That's my wife's birthday. Great.
What birthday is it?
My wife's.
Oh, your wife's birthday. Okay, well, happy birthday coming up. The U.S. Congressional Review Period ends for the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act of 2015. Congress will vote shortly thereafter on whether to pass the act. If they do, Israel may take military action against Iran.
Okay. And again, the problem is they haven't looked at the news recently, because what has happened is that they're now saying that Congress will not vote on it. That I forget whether it was, I didn't hear the whole report, either congressional leadership or somehow somebody. But what they've done is they've kicked it back, or they've decided to review it, and now they do not believe that with the Rosh Hashanah holiday coming up, you know, Congress is adjourned, and a couple of other things happening, that Congress will get to vote on it before it automatically goes into force because Congress didn't act.
Okay.
So the congressional review period, yeah, it's over by the 17th, but the 13th to the 15th, Congress is not there because of Rosh Hashanah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, with other things that are going on, Congress, it does not look like Congress is going to vote on it. I mean, that could change. It could change in a heartbeat. You know, I think part of the issue is that now Obama doesn't want them to vote on it, because where before he had the votes, now he apparently does not have the votes. A number of people who have backtracked on their saying that they were going to support it.
Okay. The next list of dates that they have is September 20th through September 26th.
Okay.
The Palestine-Israel Ecumenical Forum, PIEF, of the World Council of Churches advocates for a week of support of an end to the illegal occupation of Palestine and and a just peace for all Palestine and Israel.
They're calling for the end of the illegal occupation?
Yeah.
You mean they're asking for the Jordanians to leave?
The Council of Churches advocates for a week of support for the end of the illegal occupation of Palestine.
I know, and the Jordanians have been occupying it illegally. So does that mean they're asking for the Jordanians to leave? That's great. And you know I'm saying that.
Oh, I know. For all Palestine and Israel, churches around the world shall send a clear signal to policymakers, community groups, and their own parishes about the urgent need for a peace settlement that ends the illegal occupation and secures the legitimate rights and future of both peoples. Quote from the website of the World Council of Churches.
Okay. You know, it sounds great. Sounds nice. The problem is that's not really what they're saying. What they're saying is that Israel's got to leave. And, you know, if we're talking about illegal occupation, Israel has not engaged in any illegal occupation. Number one, well, we won't get into the whole Israeli-Palestinian discussion because that's a long discussion as well. Mm-hmm. We'll have to do that another time.
Yeah.
But suffice it to say that my answer to that is so. So what? Is this any different than a position that they've had previously?
Right. Okay.
I don't think so.
Right. In there is September 21st, they have the United Nations International Day of Peace. Note a peace covenant / agreement / settlement of 7 years begins the tribulation Shetma, Daniel 9:27. And since they mentioned Daniel 9:27, I will read that for everybody. And they shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. In the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation, and that determined shall pour upon the desolate.
Okay, so help those of us who are confused, as I am, and explain that to me just a little bit better. Are they saying that this period of time is going to occur on this September
21st?
Yeah, is that what they're saying?
I think that's what they're trying to. Yes.
Okay. So, what sacrifice ceases on that date? Just out of curiosity.
I have no idea, but I know Christians talk about the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet.
Okay. Well, you know, that's generally considered to be the destruction of the Second Temple, which I think, if I recall correctly,
happened long ago.
Happened about 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, actually before that point in time, the sacrifices in the temple ceased. So are they referring to other sacrifices? Or is there something that I'm missing?
If you're missing it, I'm missing it too, because...
Oh, okay. Well, gee, I hate to be alone in missing something.
No, because that would definitely make it pretty much impossible, if I'm not mistaken.
I would say pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Then there is September 22nd through the 27th. Pope Francis is scheduled to visit the United States for the first time, and he is planning to address both joint sessions of Congress in the Washington, D.C. and the UN General Assembly in New York. He will likely focus on environmental issues, religious unity, and push for global peace.
Okay. And let me ask this question, just out of idle curiosity. Is that something that the popes in the past have not pushed for?
As far as I know, they have, but this website has in bold religious unity and push for global peace. I I guess they're trying to draw emphasis to that, but it's nothing. I mean, all popes have. Hell, Mother Teresa was big on trying to push for global peace and all that happy shit.
Yeah. Not that there's anything. Not that there's anything wrong with global peace.
Right.
I'm certainly for it. My only question is, as they say in French, "Ma chadash tachas hashamayim," what's new under the sun?
Right.
So I'm sorry, I don't get it.
And this one will probably make you chuckle.
Okay.
September
As
23rd.
if I haven't chuckled.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
September 23rd, 70th, and a question mark. Jubilee year proclaimed on Yom Kippur, a.k.a. the Day of Atonement. Biblical scholars believe Yom Kippur is to be fulfilled by the beginning of the end of Daniel's 70th week, a.k.a. the tribulation period of 7 years.
Okay.
It is
Well, first of all, the Jubilee year is proclaimed on Rosh Hashanah, not on Yom Kippur.
Aha.
So, because the year starts when?
With Judaism, I'm not sure.
On the New Year, no?
Right.
And when's the New Year?
With us, at least in the
No.
United States.
In the Jewish calendar, when's the New Year?
Oh, I don't know.
Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's what Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year.
Okay.
That's the New Year. So, Yom Kippur is 10 days later. So you're telling me that 10 days later they're going to proclaim the Jubilee year? No, we proclaim the Jubilee year at the New Year, not 10 days later.
Right. Okay. And then they have, it is the day the Jews believe the book of judgment is closed.
Yes, that is correct.
The last Jubilee year in 1966 to 67 saw the Jews recapture Israel in the Six-Day War. They must.
The last Jubilee year?
That's what they're claiming.
Let's see. So 67.
I wasn't around at that time.
87, 97, 107, 117. Yeah, this is the Jubilee year, and that was the last one. That's correct.
They must next.
Actually, it's not quite correct because they're saying the Jubilee year was 66 to 67.
Yes.
The Jubilee year is actually 65 to 66.
Oh.
I need to check to make sure that my dates are correct. Hang on one second. Let me check with the boss.
Okay.
Dear, when is the Jubilee year? This year coming? Is the Yovel this year coming? When is it? Next year? Not this year. Okay, we're not sure.
Okay, but what they have is, this will probably get your attention. They must next recapture the Temple Mount.
We already have it. I mean, not that we can use it, but we already have it. I regret to inform you.
Well, I guess they'll claim that you recaptured it, I guess. I don't frickin' know. But the next Arab-Israel war may be sparked by the Iranian nuclear deal.
Oh, I think that's like you're sitting in a red light, and I'm now predicting that the next color that comes up is green.
And they have,
seriously?
This date has far too much associated with it to list here.
Okay.
Yeah, but then The last thing they have is September 28th, a super blood moon will be seen setting over Israel on the Feast of Tabernacles. That is bull, because the blood moon aspect will not be visible over Israel.
Well, hang on a second. The fact that it may not be visible doesn't cancel the fact that it happens. You know, how is there a new moon if you can't see it?
No, it's still a new moon. It's just, but the visibility aspect, the area that this is going to be visible is limited.
Okay.
Well, the aspect of the super blood moon, I guess they call it the super blood moon because it's the fourth one in a short period. The thing is, we haven't seen all of the blood moons, and what I find ironic as hell with the picture that they give for this, they have a moon that has blood on it, but then in front of it, they have the Superman symbol. I am dead serious. Everybody is going to see this in front of them. It literally has the Superman S.
Okay. Well, it's for a super moon. What can I tell you? I just looked up the Jubilee. This year, this past year, the 15th. 2014 to 2015 was a Shemitah year. The Shemitah year is when the land lies fallow. And there are 7 Shemitah years. 7 times 7 is how many?
49.
49. And then the next year, after the 7 Shemitah years, is the Yovel, the Jubilee. Okay?
Okay.
So we will be finishing up the Shemitah year on Rosh Hashanah. In other words, this past year, 2014 to 15, was the Shemitah year. So the Yovel, the Jubilee, technically, will be 2015 to 2016.
Okay.
So where they get 66, 67, I think their math is off a little bit, because if you count 50 years from 66, what do you get?
That would be 2016 to 2017.
And when is the Jubilee year?
The 15 to 16.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong with their math.
Absolutely.
Among other things, there's something wrong with their math.
Obviously. But
yeah,
what they also have with this super blood moon is it is the final, there's the finale of the 9th. 9 is the biblical number for finality and judgment. Prophetic lunar triad, since the cross, and the only perfect triad in Judaism. Blood moons over Israel are a bad omen for the nation. However, the last 2 blood moon triads were bad news for Arabs who lost wars with the Israelis and lost land. They will lose control of the Temple Mount this time, but you already have the Temple Mount.
Minor detail. Please don't confuse the facts with detail.
A temple must be built to fulfill the abomination that causes desolation. At the midpoint of the tribulation period, Jews are ready to rebuild today.
Well, that's true. I mean, we could possibly rebuild the temple today. If we got to go ahead, the likelihood of that occurring is somewhere between slim and none.
And Slim's on vacation?
Yes, absolutely. He's currently at the Outer Banks. The biggest problem, of course, is that while we do have control of the Temple Mount, here's where I say something nasty. One of Israel's war heroes, Moshe Dayan, in his infinite stupidity, and there's a great story relative to something related to this. But Moshe Dayan, in his infinite stupidity, when he was the Israeli commander, and when they took over, when they recaptured Jerusalem, he took the keys to the doors to the Temple Mount, and he gave them back to the Waqf, the Muslim religious control. And as such, they have been more or less de facto in control of what goes on the Temple Mount since 67. Something similar. Let me take 2 minutes to tell you the story. Something similar happened in Hebron. Hebron is where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are buried. And the story goes that Rabbi Shlomo Goren, who was the rabbi of the IDF, he knew that the forces of the IDF were about to recapture Hebron. Hebron has been a Jewish city, I guess, from before the time of Abraham. Abraham is buried there, Sarah is buried there, and so forth and so on. And he knew that the IDF forces were about to recapture Hebron from the Jordanians who occupied it illegally. The night before the forces were to go into Hebron, Rabbi Goren met up with the forces and said, "Hey, when you go in, I want to be there." And they said, "Sure, no problem." So he pitched his tent, he went to sleep. The next morning he got up, and the forces were gone. And he was upset. He didn't know what happened to them. He assumed that they were on their way in to recapture Hebron, and he was a little perturbed that they didn't bother to wake him. So he got his driver, and he woke him up, and he said, "We got to go. We got to go right now." And so they bundled into Rabbi Goren's Jeep, and off they went to Hebron. Problem is, if you've never been to Hebron, the best way to describe it is it's in a valley, and it's surrounded by a mountain. And obviously, if you're on one side of the mountain, there are two ways to get there. You can go to the left, you can go to the right. Well, Rabbi Goren went to the left, and the Israeli army went to the right. And Rabbi Goren, being one individual in a Jeep, got there faster than the Israeli army. And he comes into Hebron, and he sees that throughout Hebron there are pillowcases and bed sheets, white, all over the place. The entire community was surrendering. So he drove up to Marat HaMachpelah, the tomb of the patriarchs, and bangs on the door. And the people from the Waqf, the Muslim religious trust, told him to go away. He bangs on the door again, and they tell him to go away. He takes out his Uzi, and he shoots the door. It made some holes. The holes are still there. You can see them today. It made some holes in the door, but it didn't open the door. So He goes to his Jeep, he grabs a length of chain, attaches it to his Jeep, and he pulls the doors open.
Okay.
He goes in, and the WASP gives him the keys to Marat Makhtela. So now Marat Makhtela and one of the, I think it was a general from the Arab army, came to Rabbi Goren, who was also a general, to surrender. And Rabbi Goren refused to take his surrender. He said, "Go surrender to some sergeant. I refuse to accept your surrender." He wouldn't give them. He wouldn't give them the respect of surrendering to a general. But and then he went into Marat Makhtela and he got the keys. He brought two things with him. He brought an Israeli flag, which he put up, and he brought a Torah. When Moshe Dayan heard that Rabbi Goren had done so, he immediately sent a dispatch to him, and he told Rabbi Goren that he was to immediately take down the Israeli flag and to remove the Torah from Marat Makhtela. Rabbi Goren sent back a dispatch to Dayan. He said, let me see if I can get the order of this correct. He said, "I refuse to remove the Torah. It's where it belongs, and that's where it will stay. And as far as the Israeli flag is concerned, it means the same thing to me as I assume it does to you. If you want it removed, come down and remove it yourself." So the story then goes that Dayan had a canary, and he dispatched his driver to go down to Hebron, which is just south of Jerusalem, and remove both the flag and the Torah. The driver sped away, and on his way there, the Jeep overturned and he was killed. The flag was never removed. And the Torah remains there to this day.
Interesting.
And if Dayan had not given the keys to the Temple Mount back to the WASP, we wouldn't have all the problems that we have today. But we've gone far afield now, haven't we?
Not a little bit. But one of the things I wanted to point out is there is a section on this website that people can take a look at that has the Jewish Star and breaking news.
Okay.
And it lists the Jerusalem Post online edition.
Yeah.
And it has a scrolling number of things that, like, U.S. sends more troops to Syria to boost peacekeeper security. Obama wants the U.S. to prepare for 10,000 something.
Refugees.
U.S. hits Hasman's officials company with sanctions.
Hamas officials.
Hamas, okay. Hungary says may declare state of crisis over immigration.
Oh, yeah. They've got a problem, that's for sure. But, anybody can link to the Jerusalem Post. That's not a big deal.
Oh, okay. But
if you wanted to put it up on your website with news from Israel, you could link to the Jerusalem Post. It's very easy.
Okay, so that aspect they just because
they just link to it.
I find it ironic how these people are wanting to be end of the world, and if this is like crap that can never happen again, then I guess we're going to be saying goodbye to the Christians soon.
Well, like I said, my Rapture bus is arriving shortly, but you have to remember that this end of the world is not new. I mean,
right.
Remember what happened in the end of 1999.
Yeah.
And the 2K phenomena. You had all the people from Heaven's Gate who believed that the end of the world was coming, and there was a spaceship that was going to take them away in the tail of the Hale-Bopp comet, so they all committed suicide. It was in the year 999, I believe, that in order to be ready for the end of the world and Jesus returning, that the entire nation of Iceland converted to Christianity. This is not a new phenomenon. People have been looking to figure out when the end of the world, if the end of the world, when Jesus was supposedly coming back, when the Messiah is coming, and the answer is we have no clue.
But we also know it can't be Jesus.
Well, that's for sure. That's for sure. But whatever people want to believe, there's a great book, if you can get a hold of it, called "When Prophecy Fails" by Leon Festinger. He did a study in the 1950s. There was a woman, I believe, in the Midwest. I haven't read the book in a couple of years. Every now and then I go back to it and reread it. It's not a big book, but nevertheless, there was a woman in the Midwest in the 1950s who claimed to be in communication with extraterrestrials, and these extraterrestrials promised on such and such date that the world would come to an end, and people who were in with her, and because she was in contact with them, they were sending a spaceship to save all of these people when the world ended. That was the 1950s. Let me just check. No, it doesn't look like the world ended.
Nope.
But it's an interesting study on what happens. Again, the book is called "When Prophecy Fails." It's an interesting study of what happens when you believe fervently in something and it doesn't come about. And this is another example of that same mindset. The same year 2000, the world is going to end. Year 1000, the world is going to end, and Jesus is supposedly coming back. This is not new.
Right.
And people are constantly looking, the blood moons, whatever you want to do. The bottom line is, gee, guys, when we'll know it happens? When it happens.
Right. But as far
is
there a tribulation?
Predict it, number one. Number two, Jesus ain't coming back because Jesus ain't. And, whatever else happens, it's not in our hands. It's in God's hands.
Is there a tribulation anything in Judaism?
No.
Okay. Now, there is also talk, I guess, around September 22nd to 23rd or even 24th, an asteroid impact is supposedly...
Cool. Where?
They don't say where it's going to hit, but a lot of conspiracy theorists are claiming that the government knows this is going to happen.
Of course. The government knows everything. Don't you know that?
And the Marshall...
My question is, with all of the... we're talking about less than 30 days from now, right?
Oh, yeah.
With all of the observatories around the world, the country, don't you think somebody would have let it slip?
You would
if
think.
Something like that was imminent?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so, too. And on top of that, the reality is that asteroids pretty much strike the world on a regular basis. I don't know if you saw the dash cam pictures of the asteroid in Russia. That was pretty spectacular. So it's not, for me to predict that an asteroid was going to strike somewhere in the world. Again, it's like sitting at the red light and predicting that the next light is going to be green.
Right. Now, do you know anything about the CERN? This is another one Christians are all worried about, is the Large Hadron Collider
Oh,
that,
in Switzerland, is it?
yeah, somewhere in like that, that it
Yeah.
will open up the abyss in
Yeah.
September
Well,
2015.
I think it's interesting. There were some people who were predicting that when they had the collision of the particles, that they really didn't know what the results of that would be, and that it could be cataclysmic. I believe that they've already had several particle collisions,
Mm-hmm.
and as far as I know, it hasn't been cataclysmic.
Right.
Now, I could be wrong. I haven't really kept up on this one. I mean, they could be planning another collision on that date or somewhere near that date. I don't know. Maybe it's the first. I'm not sure. But there are scientists who claim it could be cataclysmic, but the bottom line is they don't know.
What I find comical is that the idea is that it will cause a mini black hole that will swallow the Earth.
Well, that's what some people have said.
Do they not realize how stupid they sound?
When you're dealing with a complete unknown, which this is, how stupid is it? It's speculation. I don't know. That one is beyond me, because science and I never really got along real well.
Well, a black hole is created by a star imploding and the gravitational
Correct.
pull of
And
the
what they're saying is that this collision simulates that situation, and that's what they're concerned with. That it will actually create a black hole and suck the Earth into it.
Well, if that would happen, we would not really know anything happened, because we would be
God.
you wouldn't be swallowing the Earth. It would be ripped apart by gravitational.
Yeah, it would just disintegrate.
Yeah.
Yeah. As somebody who comes from a faith base, I don't see that happening. I don't believe that's God's plan. I don't see anywhere in any indication of that being God's plan, and so forth and so on. So I don't know.
Right, and
I
there's
just don't buy it.
there's talk of a financial collapse, but there's been
Well,
talk
that
about,
happened 2 weeks ago. Come on.
yeah,
Look, how much did the stock market plunge in a week? Is that not akin to a financial collapse?
right, but in a sense we're still, life is going on as usual. I mean, the dollar hasn't.
Well, what choices do we have? Life is going on as usual. I could be running back and forth and moaning and groaning and saying, oh my God, look what's happened to my 401k, look what's happened to this, what the value of this, and so forth. Or I could go on with my life, because there's really nothing I can do about it. Okay.
Right. But yeah, I
But
appreciate.
we did experience a degree of financial collapse over the last couple of weeks.
Right, but not near what they're trying
No.
to.
No. But is it potentially possible? Yeah, of course it is. I mean, you had Kerry making statements relative to that, and he tied it to this Iran deal, that if the U.S. doesn't go along with the Iran deal, then the dollar could occur that the dollar would not be considered the basis of currency, which would be devastating. But
That would be
will the world
devastating for the
continue?
world.
Would it be devastating for the world? I don't know. I'm relatively certain that there are countries that have gone through financial collapse. The U.S. went through a depression. All sorts of things can happen.
Mm-hmm.
What can I tell you? All sorts of things can happen.
Right.
I don't claim to be a prophet, and I tried plugging in my crystal ball and it didn't work.
I was going to say your crystal ball's not lighting up, and
no, it's not lighting up. I've got a problem with that, and and my tea leaves. I've been using the instant tea, so it doesn't have any tea leaves for me to read, so that's a problem. All of the possibilities for predicting the future, I don't have them.
ah, that's no good. I mean, what about your hotline to God? I mean, come on, you have to have a hotline to God.
I have a hotline to God. I use the hotline to God every single day. And my hotline to God, I believe works. But, in terms of the hotline back from God, I have the hotline back from God also, in terms of what He told me to do and how He told me to act. But in terms of go to the corner and take a left, go down 2 blocks and take a right, God doesn't do that.
Well, I'm just thinking there needs to be some kind of heads up from somebody that. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it has been a pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to talking to you more in the future.
Not a problem.
But I also look forward to
always my pleasure.
Yeah, I also look forward to Christians going bye-bye in the next week. That would be.
Well, I think I know there are a lot of people I don't want to see go bye-bye. I have some very, very dear Christian friends. We agree to disagree on a lot of things. I just, I think that we should have a discussion shortly after October 1st.
Oh, definitely. And I just, a
and
part of me wants to do the na-na-na-na-na goodbye.
Yeah.
I mean, just I'll wave at them as they go do their Peter Pan impression. I mean, hey.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
all right, but let's talk after October 1st.
Yes, definitely.
And then we can look back and say, okay.
Yep. All right.
Not that I'm a skeptic. I know you are, but not that I'm a skeptic. So.
All right. Well, feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Later, people.